I get shit done, I have fun, it's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Oh, it's a new year and the gremlins have showed up. Anyway, welcome to another episode of the Business Renovator. Unlock franchise mastery. My guest, Tim Parmeter. Look at the nerves of getting messed up. Anyway, it's real, it's live, and it's raw. So Tim's going to reveal the secrets to success. We're going to share his journey, how he got to where he is in the franchising world and being a franchise coach, and what are the upsides of looking at a franchise. But in the meantime, thanks for being here and all that craziness at the beginning of this season. There's some changes in technology that I was unaware of, but we're here, and that's the main thing. If you're watching us live, thank you for being here. Much appreciated. If you're watching us on the replay, remember #replay. Let us know where you're watching in from. If you've got some feedback, you want to comment on about that wonderful intro, please do. Feedback's always welcome, and that's how we can improve the show itself. If you like the show, you might want to share it out with people, like it, and comment on what you like and would like to see different or see in addition to what we already done today. So in order to make this show happen, I have a shameless plug, so just hang in while I go get it. Oh, welcome back. And guess what? It's a 30-minute complimentary coaching session is available for you if you feel like that as a business owner that you want to explore where you're at. You might find by doing the business growth assessment that you're right on target, nothing to change. But you also might find that there is an area of improvement. Just by seeing it on this show, let us know that that's where you've got introduced to it, and we'll give you a complimentary 30-minute coaching call, session, discovery, whatever you want to call it, but can help you with your question, your concern. And if I'm not the right one, we have a whole network of them around the globe with a diverse background and experience. So if it's not me, maybe I can introduce you to somebody who can answer your question. In the meantime, let's not stumble anymore, and I'm going to kind of introduce our wonderful guest today because he's pretty cool. So we did say this is about unlocking your franchise mastery. Tim Parmeter reveals the secrets to success. He's the founder and CEO of FranCoach, the host of Franchising 101 podcast, and co-host of the Franchising 360 TV show. Tim created FranCoach about 11 years ago, maybe it's 12 years now with the new year, with the goal of helping people. He wants to help them become properly educated on the franchise ownership and the process of getting there. I spoke Canadian there. He also wants to help them to determine if it's the right path for them. And if it is, the FranCoach team will work to identify what's the best franchise for them. And that's a pretty critical consideration as you think about investing and changing and pivoting your life to investing in a business. Do you start from scratch and build it from ground zero, or do you buy something that's already proven? So we're going to find out some of the answers to those questions with Tim's expertise. I'm going to bring him up right now. Hello, Tim. Thanks for being here. Did you laugh at that intro that I did? That was comical.
Thank you, number one, Phil, for having me, and number two is you made me feel very inferior about our own podcast, and like our intro isn't nearly that cool. I don't have little like animation things popping up, so I'm super jealous.
Yeah, normally, typically it goes a little bit smoother than that, but anyway, I use a platform, and in the platform they're adding improvements, let's call them. But this one snuck up on me, and actually got a message from Facebook that it doesn't like one of the. Anyway, things change that we don't understand sometimes. So
yes,
that's the life of an entrepreneur, isn't it?
It is, and it's the three little letters we always talk about is FSO, which is figure stuff out. Typically a different S word, but I think as anything that you are, whether you're a true entrepreneur and starting something from scratch or a franchise owner, yeah, you better have the mindset of you have the ability and the desire to figure stuff out from time to time, because you're gonna have to.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you started, you weren't born into franchising, were you?
No, not even remotely. Yeah, no, like most people, I think this journey was not remotely planned, or I didn't know the first thing about it, but here I am, like we're in year 11 now of doing this crazy thing.
So you actually did stub your toes, scrape your knees, because you hadn't bought a franchise. You built a company that helps people in that space get educated. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think so we work with people that are thinking they might want something different, might want to be a franchise owner, and kind of educate them on what that's all about. Because as you know, you've been in this a long time, but people don't know nothing about nothing when it comes to franchising. Oh, it's McDonald's, it's Taco Bell, it's millions of bucks. No way I could do it. Well, yes, that's true for McDonald's and Taco Bell, but there's all of these other things, right? And so it's really kind of helping them educate people on this. And again, like kind of my whole journey was dumb luck into it, but it's been like most people, once you get into franchising, you don't ever get out. It's like kind of like the mob, like minus the murder and extortion, I guess.
Oh,
but
right.
But once you're in, you're usually in for good.
What got you to shift from where you were to getting into doing what you're doing and starting this business of helping others get a franchise?
Yeah. So, and again, probably people out there that have been in the corporate world for any length of time, you can appreciate this. Is my last corporate job was ended in spectacular fashion due to no fault of my own. I was working in a big district office for a prominent insurance company, and the people in charge of the office committed a little fraud, apparently. And so who knew fraud is frowned upon, but at least at the time it was. And so basically everybody in the office like lost their jobs. And so I was in a transition career wise. I was in a transition personally, as I had at the time, my son was about 1.5 years, and we were doing the fun thing of trying to figure out co-parenting. And so I needed something that was going to provide me more flexibility. I didn't know anything really about franchising at all, and stumbled onto somebody that kind of like, hey, maybe I can help you with this a little bit and give it a shot. And they helped a tiny little bit of showing me a couple things. And it's kind of one of those things. I don't know that I had any choice. I've got a little thing, I think we talked the other day, on my wall when I first started, because it was just me. I was my like humble little 1-bedroom apartment in North Dallas at the time, and sitting there at the kitchen table trying to like figure out who to talk to. If I find somebody to talk to, what the hell am I going to say? And it was just like, this has to work. And I still have the little letters on a piece of paper I wrote down, THTW, this has to work. And so it was just a matter of, fortunately, I have a strong background in education and coaching, recruiting, and that's really all we were doing. We're talking to smart, successful people. We're teaching them something new, and helping them kind of find a new life path. So it was just complete, absolute dumb luck, and it just happened to be something that fit my skill set. I don't have many, but I've got a couple, and then really the desire to have the freedom and flexibility of having my own business. So I mean, and again, like from as humble of beginnings as possible to 11 years later, here we are, and everything is knock on wood, rolling really well.
Well, I was scribbling here while you're talking because you activated some things for me. I like the FSO. If you listen to the intro, sometimes I have that in here. I actually have a song that I had crafted for me by one of my guests, but he wasn't a guest. I met him through a LinkedIn mastermind group. And he's a songwriter, a creator, and he writes songs. So he wrote one that's called Why Not Me? And it goes, I keep my word to myself. I get stuff done, but using the other word. And then it carries on from there. But what you also did was a couple of things was way back when decades ago, I came across one of the first mentors I've ever had that I went to a workshop of his. And he talked about this. Change happens from one or two reasons. This is what you had. When they shut down the business and everybody that was employed by them, unemployed, you had an impact on what the hell you do now, right? So that's a good example of how life happens. The easier way, which is what I think coaching does, is helps to have that constant spaced repetition. Making small incremental changes on a consistent basis has a massive impact. It's a compound interest factor. Some say it's the eighth wonder of the world. And that's what you do as a coach as well. And then the thing that you also said, this has to work. So you made a committed decision, which is another one of the principles of success. And then I'll ask you more questions or get you to share more of your journey. It's focus on your assets. What I like about that is 80-20 rule. It sounded to me like you realized what you were good at and did that. So the 20% of your time, effort, and energy created the 80% of your outcomes.
Right. Yeah, no. And I would love to say it was intentional. But it did just kind of happen. But I think it's part of why it stuck and why I've been able to have a tiny bit of success at this is prior to the corporate world, I was a teacher and a coach, and I was an athlete and like growing up all through college. So my brain kind of works that way I like being the teacher. I like being the coach and kind of like, as a college coach back in the day, like I can yell at you and make you run sprints, right? Like we're not usually doing that with our clients, right? So I'm like, Mo, you must listen to me or you're running sprints. That's not the case. So it's obviously a much more intellectual version of that. And again, I think from this standpoint for us, I'm like, I talk to smart, successful people all day long, and they are almost always stuck in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they had the bam, like I did, and all of a sudden you're out of a job, or they're in a job that they're stuck with. And I think as people tend to age and you start to rise in that corporate ladder, like, yay, that's great at the beginning, and then all of a sudden you get a lot higher up. There's not the growth opportunity that there was when you're at the bottom, and there's much more competition. You start to get a little older, and all of a sudden that 10-year junior version of you comes along, and all of a sudden we'll take your job. They'll work harder and they'll do it for less money, and next thing you know, you're out, right? And so there's the beauty of what we do is, with franchising, it's this amazing world that's all around us that we don't see. And there's so many potential opportunities within there. And it's really a chance for people to kind of almost reinvent themselves a little bit, which may sound silly or cheesy, but it's really kind of what they're doing, and allows them to take control over their life versus somebody else having that.
Yeah. I was just thinking about when you're people that I've met that are, just as you've explained it, that's their story. Because part of what I'm involved with is a franchise. And so I've met some of them, whether you got them involved or not, I don't know directly. I'm sure you had a hand on a few of them. And their backstory is kind of just what you just said. And I put a banner on the bottom here. This is one I think is powerful. But you were living this as you're sharing your story. It's our get-to-itiveness and our stick-to-itiveness. Yeah, that is crucial. Whether you if you jump in and get a franchise and make that happen, you still got to do the work, right? So this is an important statement, I think. Anyway, I'll take that off.
No, I like that, because one of the things with the franchise, right? The number one thing franchisors look for, like in a candidate, I don't care what brand, are you going to follow the plan? Can you and will you follow a proven system and plan? Great. But there's still that, like, it's hard, right? There's going to be things that are going to go wrong. Are you going to be, the Eeyore that's going to go, oh, I knew that was going to go wrong, and like, or blame it on the franchisor, right? Like, if you own a sandwich, you own Subway, and somehow you messed up an order and you run out of napkins on Saturday morning, that ain't the franchisor's fault. Like, that's you as the owner. Do you want to take that responsibility? Do you want to figure out, hey, what's the backup plan for this, right? And those are, yes, there's things within the franchise system to help you with that, but I mean, they're not doing everything. They're not there all day, every day. And if they were, guess what? They wouldn't really need you as an owner, right? At that point. So you really do. You have to have that mindset of, I like being in charge, right? I want the control.
Yeah.
I'm smart enough to know that there are people that came before me that figured all of this out. So I'm going to take a proven system and implement it, but I still have the ability to make day-to-day decisions, all within the scope of the brand, right? But stuff's going to go wrong. And if you are kind of a negative-minded person, or don't want to be the one to figure stuff out, I mean, honestly, this probably isn't for you.
Which leads me to this quote, or this formula. Have you seen this before?
I don't think so.
E plus R equals O. So the event plus the response equals the outcome. So if you're not happy with the outcome, if you look at your metrics, you're not earning enough money, you're working too hard, don't have a life balance that you were looking for, you could be a victim, like you were talking about. That is a choice. Or
Right.
You can be a victor and take charge of it, even though you may not have caused it. You decided to get into business or a franchise or whatever it is you're doing. We're talking about business and franchise, so let's stick with that. What could you do to change your reaction, or like change what's happening in the event, so that when you go through this process, you have a different outcome? So if you don't have enough napkins on the weekend, and that's the busiest time, would it make sense to relook at your planning and ordering calendar? And maybe you should have done it 10 days, find out what the lead time is, and then automatically put on the calendar, every Tuesday we need to order for the following 2 weekends ahead.
Right.
Because the deliverable time is such.
Yep. And probably a lot of those things are within a franchise plan, but sometimes, like, maybe the truck delivering them, like, got held up, or there's, there's maybe it's in California and there's a wildfire and we can't get there, or a snowstorm or whatever, or like down here in Arizona, the brutal winter today is just is awful. Phil, I'm struggling. So I don't know if I get any sympathy from the Canadians here, but you just sometimes, stuff happens and you've got to be the one to figure that out. And I always talk a lot about the positivity piece is, and I had somebody on our podcast last year, and she's a CEO of a franchise, and I'd ask her, like, are there any particular, like, traits that you look for in people? And she didn't miss a beat, and she'd been in the industry for 25 years. She's like, positivity. If you come in as an owner and you have a negative attitude, the second something goes wrong, like, right? Like, I knew I shouldn't have done this because of the napkins, or I knew this, or I knew that. And let me just help you. If that's you out there, nobody likes being around you, right? You're not a fun person to be around, right? So bad stuff is going to happen in our life, whatever it is, but having that positive attitude of like, yeah, well, ran out of napkins. Okay. Well, we had plan B in place, where there's another store we can run over to, or heck, we run over to Walmart or Costco or something, and we get that, because we're not going to tell our customers to just, like, hey, it's cold out, you got long sleeves, just use that, right? Like, we're not all toddlers. But I just think those are like those couple little intangibles. If you're ever wondering, should I look at this? Do you like being in charge? Do you like being able to kind of figure things out? Can you have a positive attitude? And the one thing, and Phil, I'm sure this was you too, is like, the one word everybody says that we work with that's looking at a franchise is control. They want more control over their life. freedom, flexibility, maybe it's decision making, money factors in. Believe it or not, it's never the top thing. It's more about that overall lifestyle piece of like, I want a better life for myself. I want to be in control over that. And franchise ownership gives you that opportunity.
Yeah, I was just looking at my reason for. I've been involved with Focal Point for, I think, well, 17 years for sure. Losing track. It's been a long time, and I knew I needed systems to help me out. And even though I knew that, the first year was hard.
Yeah.
For me, it's not hard for everybody, and it's harder for others. It depends on what's going on. So my own experience was I ended up getting a couple of clients fairly early, within a couple of months. And then after that, I struggled. And when I dissected and did a stop and reassess of my own situation, what the situation was, I stopped following the system. And the reason I bought the franchise and bought into it is to follow a system and do what they say until I get comfortable and get my own DNA to a point where it becomes more automatic. Then deviate and do some different things and experiment. But why not follow what's working already? Right. The thing in the space that I'm in is we have a lot more flexibility than a lot of other franchises. For example, restaurants. I've never owned one as a franchisee or even an independent, but I don't have to buy product to put my product in. Like you were saying, napkins and if we're doing burgers, the wraps that has all the branding on it, the boxes they put. I have to have that. I can't go to a non-supplier and get my own brand. I can't do that. That's so I have a little bit more flexibility in that regard in the space in professional services. We still have a brand that we follow, and it strengthens the whole thing. But each one of us as coaches is unique in their own right, have different skill sets. So some are better at executive coaching, some are better at sales coaching, some are better at leadership. Some of us have a combination of all of that. Some like facilitating things versus one-on-one. So we have that diverse thing. So we can get messed up with all that freedom, because the freedom is great, but it also creates some other issues and challenges. Yeah, and I think go ahead, Phil, sorry. That's all right. I was just going to finish off when I did talk to a franchise broker at the time to help me. And one of the questions he asked me, and I think it's a really good one, are you inbound or outbound motivated? Meaning, are you okay going out and looking for business, or you do prefer it to come to you? I think that's probably, you could address that better than I can, but what's your thought on that? No, I think it's one thing with we'll get asked, and you can Google this and you'll see all sorts of stuff that won't help you. But like, what's the best franchise? What's the top? What's the best industry? What's the hottest? It's all crap, right? Because this is the most personalized and individualized thing you're going to have in your life outside of probably marriage. Is what's the best thing for you is not what's going to be the best thing for the next person or the next person. And so you really have to kind of like reverse engineer and create, what are you actually good at? Well, I always tell people, like, we're going to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. And like, you don't think you should answer that after the age of like 8, right? But when you're looking at this, you really do. And so all the behind the scenes things too with franchises. And again, I always use like Focal Point's one I've used as an example with clients, because I love everything about what Focal Point does. We've had, gosh, over the years, probably a dozen or so of our clients become Focal Point owners. Steve Thompson is amazing. The whole team there is fantastic. Owners are happy. I know all of these things. So people might go, well, geez, Tim, why don't you own it? Oh, I would be a terrible Focal Point owner, right? Like, I don't want to do any of the things Focal Point owners have to do. I don't really like people, right? And that's very much a outward facing people business, building long-term relationships, all of these different things. So I can see all the positives, but also like it's not a match, right? And so people have to, the longer they've been in the corporate world, I think the harder it is to break free of all the brainwashing that's been going on with them, to really, again, look at this as an opportunity, as a blank slate. What are you good at? What do you enjoy?
What do you want to get out of bed and go do every day? And do I like going out and talking to people? Would I rather have people come to me? What kind of people do I want to be around? All of those things really is what drives this. And even the kind of the behind the scenes of the people within the franchise. How do you connect with them? All of that stuff is hugely important because that becomes kind of your family.
Yeah, that's I have a note here to ask about the myth versus the reality of owning a franchise. Just like you read my mind, and I think you kind of have addressed that, right?
Yeah, it's again, the longer somebody's been in corporate, the more industry gets beat into their head, right? The vice president of sales in industry X says, I don't want to be in this industry anymore. I want to go over and do the same thing in industry Y. Well, there's going to be a little old HR person there that's going to go, I'm really sorry, you don't have any experience. And you're like, I can learn the new industry like in 2 days, right? I'm bringing all of these transferable skills, whereas franchises, they don't care what industry background you come from, right? They're not looking for I always kind of make the joke, you could be the biggest slob on the planet and own a cleaning franchise. It's not your job to be the cleaner. It's your job to run the business. And so it's great because like you talked about with Focal Point, wide range of things you can do. All the options are great. There's our team, we're partnered with almost 700 franchises, but there's about 4,000 in the US. That's a lot. And when you think industry is not the driver, and that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions, is that I've done this, therefore I need to do the same thing in a franchise. It's usually completely different because it's a time to kind of like break free of all the corporate crap, reassess who you are, what you want to, because it's all about that get out of bed. You're the one that's got to get up and go do this every day. And if it's like, if I own Focal Point, maybe I'd figure it out, but it would be a struggle because it's outside of my comfort and my skill set. And so I'm just like, more likely than not, I'm going to be miserable versus finding something that's a good fit.
Yeah, I like that. That's great. That's like sage advice. Play to your strengths. I went to an event pre-Christmas, like Christmas holiday event. Was a networking in a group that I used to hang out with, and I hadn't seen him for a long time. And I'm getting up there in the age, and people say, "So when are you going to retire?" And I says, "Retire? Why would I retire from something I love to do?"
Right.
It's fun. I can if I want, but why? What would I do? I like helping people much the same as you, growing their potential and finding ways to do the thing that makes their heart sing. That's why I do the coaching stuff.
Yeah.
And it allows me to do that. I stumbled. Well, I've not been a college coach. Well, I got to do some leadership training at a local college here with the football team, and did that for about 3 years. That was great. I never played football. I'm more of a hockey guy. And the things like you were talking about, you get to talk to really intelligent, creative individuals and helping them to make a course correction that makes sense to them. And that's what I do. I'm not helping them necessarily with their career, but in their business to do the same thing as what you're doing. So if we do what makes our heart sing, it's not work, right?
Exactly. Right. Like I kind of, in some ways, can't think of like, can't even envision like retire. I'm not going to retire. Right. So even my 11-year-old pointed out yesterday, somehow talking about like, he'd just gone to a funeral over the weekend for like a great grandmother. And he's like, Dad, you got about like 20 years left in you. Right. And I'm like, apparently you're not allowed to beat your children anymore, but I kind of wanted to at that moment. And then I'm like, oh crap, I'm 55, man. He's might not be all that far off. I'm like, but I can't envision doing something like not doing something, number one. And I think that's again, back to that control when you own a franchise. Like imagine your job and you're like, hey, I don't want to retire yet, but I want to work about 10 hours a week, but I still want you to pay me the same amount of money. Right. Like how fast is security going to escort you out of the building? Like probably in a straitjacket, like you're crazy. There's no way that's a thing. But as a franchise owner, your business is running. You want to back off a little bit, like go travel, go play some more golf, pickleball, I guess, whatever it might be that you want to go do. Your business is still running. You're still bringing in the same amount of money. You're still building the equity in that business that eventually, when you want to, you can sell it. Maybe even pass it on to your kids down the road, right? Like, again, you're not passing on your job, your director of blah blah blah, to your kid. Like, you don't get to sell it to the next person. The business, you get to do that, right? So it's all those things along the way, and then that equity piece of make all the money you want along the way, and then cash out that sucker when you are finally done.
So that brings me to another fellow who lives down in your neck of the woods. I think he's in Phoenix somewhere, but he's been coaching for quite a long time. And one of the things he shared with me as a kind of a mentee was to look at actuarial tables of a life insurance company and see how many, based on your years, how many years do they predict you have left? And then divide it into 3 sections. You sleep for a third, you play for a third during the day, right? And you work for a third. And what do you want to do with the third of the life? If you have 11 years left, for example, what are you going to do with the 11 years? So you've got 3 years that you're going to be actually doing work stuff. And so he redesigned his life. Well, not redesigned it, but he had designed it. What he shared with me and others was that when you look at it from that point of view and you decide what kind of life you want, and I've had several mentors explain this to me, and that is to create your ideal life story. And what does it look like? And when you write it, it's a fantasy. It's not real yet, but it's something to grow into, and it gives something to look forward to. When we retire and don't have a look forward to, we're going to die. The insurance companies count on that based on statistical data. They're not morbid, but they just look at the data, and that's what it tells them. So if you have something to look forward to, rather than the line of retirement, and I'm not saying retirement's not a good thing. It is for a lot of people, as long as they have something to look forward to while they're retiring. Otherwise, they're gonna. So anyway, he decided and explained to me and us in the group that he needed to earn X amount of money per year, and he only wanted to work 10 months a year, and he wanted to hang out with his great grandkids and the great grandkids and whatever else a couple of times a year in San Diego, because they have a place down there somewhere. And that's what he built his business with. He knew how much he needed to charge, and he's a high-end revenue achieving coach that has a huge impact on a lot of people. And he's 85.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Crazy. Yeah. It's just, I think that's the piece when you talk about what's a misconception or a myth or whatever is, like there's a couple we talk about the industry. We talk about like sometimes, oh, you're buying a job. Well, maybe some people that's exactly what they want, right? Others are looking at the possibility like you can build an empire, right? Multiple units, multiple brands, whatever, with that. And I think the other piece is that it's significantly more attainable than most people realize, because if you just ask just somebody off the street, hey, name a franchise or two that you can think of. Well, we know what they're going to say, right? McDonald's, Taco Bell, Subway, right? They're going to be those type of things. They're not rattling off focal point business coaching, right? Or any of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that are on the lower end of that investment spectrum that are all around us. You're probably doing business with us that you don't even think about, or that you don't even realize you might be a perfect owner for, some landscape franchise. And you're like, I've never mowed the lawn in my life. And that landscape franchise is going, good, dude. We don't want you to. We need you to run the business. And we're looking for people with these skill sets. Are you good at that? Yeah, I love those things. Okay. Are you going to follow the plan? Are you going to put forth the effort? Right. Again, all of those things. It's this amazing world that just, again, people don't know anything about, which comes back to kind of our plan, so to speak, with FranCoach is, let's actually educate you on what this is. Maybe it's not your thing right now, but maybe it is. And there's all of these things, and you can create that type of life that you just described. It really, truly can be amazing for people.
Yeah, it made me think of somebody, he was a banker at a high level, and he has bought a franchise, and they do exactly what the franchisor does, exactly what you said. They hire people who've never run one, and then they train them. He has an auto body franchise. It's a fairly well-known one, and they're doing really well. But he might have now, but when they started in that business, he'd never worked on a body of any car. He maybe washed it. about it, right?
Right.
But he followed the system and followed the plan. So that's one of the things being a franchisee can do for you. I know you've probably got one story that without having to dig through a whole pile of an individual that you helped change their life by getting into the franchise that you'd like to brag a little
gosh, hopefully there's at least one in there somewhere. So, and honestly, probably a handful within Focal Point, but there's one, and this reference this person because they just kind of came back around. And so we had somebody pre-pandemic, I think it was 2019, that we were working with. And again, the typical story, they were probably in their 40s ish, worked through the corporate world, rose the ladder, frustrated, just like stuck, wanted something different. So we go through our whole process, ends up landing on a franchise, launches the franchise. And it was kind of towards the end of 2019. And it was one that works business to business. And then we roll into the pandemic and you're like, uh-oh, right? But he was able to kind of figure it out and make it work and kind of get through that piece. And then grew the business to where he owned the rights for an entire state. And then really after about 4 or 5 years was like, I'm kind of bored. Right. And so comes back like, kind of like, what else you got? I'm ready for the next thing. We go back through everything all over again and do some research. And he just right before Christmas signed a franchise agreement with his second brand. Right. So he went from, and I even told him kind of where he filled out some of his financial situation 5 years ago versus where it was a few months ago. And I'm like, dude, you know the difference, right? And he sort of did, but he didn't. And I read what he had submitted 5 years ago versus what he submitted now. I'm like, so congratulations. I'm like, unless you're lying. He's like, no, like congratulations, right? He built it up to where he owned the entire state for that first franchise, was ready for number 2. And he's like, last thing he said to me is like, I'll talk to you in a few years. Right. Because he wanted to get that one up and running and build it again from somebody that was, and he admittedly was a little skeptical at the very beginning of the whole thing. I don't know about franchises, right? I think it's all food, think they all fail. I don't want to buy a job, all of this stuff to now he's, franchise number 1, he owns the entire state and he's already launching franchise number 2. So, and it's completely like changed and altered his life, all the kind of the things for his family as his kids grow up. So that was kind of cool to hear, like be able to kind of talk to him again after all of that time and then see him expand into that next brand. And just kind of very matter of factly go, I'll talk to you in a couple years. And, if I'm still sitting here 3 years from now, my guess is I'll be talking to him again. And that'll be awesome to see.
Well, that ties into what we talked about when we introduced you, is that you want to help people become properly educated on the franchise ownership and help them pick the right one and be successful. Not that you're holding their hands during the ownership time, but you've done the heavy lifting, the foundational component of it, getting them in the right spot, helping them make the decision that suits them. So I want to brag about you a little bit by bringing something up to the stage here. And what I'm going to start with, I'll bring up your website first. Let me make it easy for us to see that. Should be right there. And you can't see the URL, but hang on, gentlemen and ladies and gang, I'm going to make it easy. Watch this. It's real easy, FranCoach.net. So in here, people can't read what's on the screen. I have to turn my head as well. Homepage, about us, their process industries, funding, helping, you do a lot of stuff. Franchising 101 podcast, because you have your own show, and what other resources are available. And this is all free. You just have to go to his website. It's real easy, FranCoach.net. Anything you want to add to that I might have skipped over?
No, thank you for that. Yeah. And one of the other things that, if you go back to the education piece that we also have for our clients, once we get them a little into the process, sorry, this is Canadian time into the process. So, and and get them connected to franchises. That's a 6 to 8 week mutual vetting process. There's tons of things that go on. We have a whole separate, like, kind of behind the scenes site just for our clients with more things to educate them on. Okay, here comes this big scary franchise disclosure document, or getting ready to talk to owners, or all the different things along the way. So in addition to what you see there, there's a whole nother little, like, secret website speakeasy that we allow people to kind of give them the code and sneak into.
Cool. And it's real easy to get to. It's right there, FranCoach.net. In addition to that, though, we're going to go here. If they want to connect with you, this is your LinkedIn page, and you could message him, find out more information, follow him here to get to learn what he's all about. And I don't know, the other one disappeared. I had another page that if you were to Google him, you would see that he's everywhere. So he's in his space, doing what he loves to do, helping people like you live their ideal life by helping them decide if franchising is right for them. Last question before we wrap this up. Is there something you would want a nugget or a gem that you would like to share with our audience?
I think the biggest thing, and when you think about franchising, is it is significantly more attainable than what you probably realize. It's, yes, there's fast food. Yes, some things cost $1 million, but there's so many other things on the other side of that spectrum and that range. And it really is an opportunity to take control of your life, and not just professionally, because it's also the personal side, again, because you're in control of your time, your freedom, your flexibility, right? All of the things. You're in charge of the decisions with the business. If you will, you're smart enough to follow a plan, you'll put forth the effort, and you can figure stuff out a little bit. The only thing left is making sure you're finding the right fits. But I happen to know somebody that can help you with that. But it really is it's just so much more attainable. And again, if there's any level of frustration and pain with what you're doing, it's worth exploring a little bit. Even if it confirms it's not for you right now, at least you've learned something new, and that usually doesn't kill us.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I like that. Even if it's not a fit for you, it's crucial to just, we only have one life. Why not live it to the fullest? And
Right.
If you can have a coach like yourself, help them go through the field of opportunities. What's a good fit? That's excellent. And I did it. I didn't work with Tim, but I did work with another broker, and it helped me go through and ask questions I hadn't even thought of. So
Yeah.
it was a great process. I spoke American, brought you back. I want to thank you for being a guest on the show, and see, you're on the other side now. I have the power to, I can move you around.
There we go. Yeah, like, which way am I? There we go.
Anyway, it was great to have you on here, share some insights, and just never know who's might hear about this and want to reach out to you and explore the possibilities of franchising. Now, just for the audience, you're in the US only, right? In terms of reaching out, like if a Canadian wanted to reach out to you, or a Brit or something.
Mostly US, but we do work with people really all over the world. We've had a handful of folks from Canada, and that we have been able to work with. And so yeah, like, I don't care where you are. Let's talk.
Okay, cool. Well, on that note, let's wrap this up, because we can go off and help some other people either get into a franchise or help the franchise be successful, because we both work with all of them.
Yes.
Just a different way. So again, thanks for being an awesome guest. And I'm going to wrap this up.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put this up here because it's what I do. See that you in there? That's like you and you and you and you, and actually me, but me doesn't work with the you. It really means be your unique, wonderful self. The same mentor that I learned this from introduced me to this concept. So go act and be like your most wonderful self. You are unique, and you truly are wonderful. So now go act like it. Until next time, I'm Coach Phil. We'll see you on the next episode of the Business Renovator.
I get shit done. I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking